Hello there, everybody, and today I'm here to review a Star Wars novel, that being Dark Disciple. So this is part of the new canon, or if you really want to call it that, since it's been 10 years, but this is the new canon's first, I think it's the first novel that they tried to do that's part of the timeline. This is 2015 Star Wars. This is before The Force Awakens came out. This is when Star Wars Rebels was starting to become a thing. But this book basically came out right after the Clone Wars was unfortunately canceled after season 6, and this is meant to be part of season 7 and 8, but then years later they finally did a story with Asajj Ventress that basically tied into this book, at the beginning, spoilers, but this was apparently supposed to be an 8-episode arc of the show. I don't know if it was supposed to be part of season 8, because there was going to be a season 8, but yeah, that didn't happen. But various elements of this book would later be brought to canon in Tales of the Underworld, and this book is part of the canon, but let's discuss it. But the only way you can see what happens in this book in animation form is through a few rough animations that they did that were basically unproduced, and the opening of Tales of the Underworld is basically how you can somewhat watch Dark Disciple. But anyway, this story is basically about the Jedi sending Jedi Master Quinlan Voss to assassinate Count Dooku with the help of Asajj Ventress. But instead, they fall in love, and it causes Voss to somewhat turn to the dark side at first, because that's what Ventress felt she needed to take out Dooku. But throughout this whole book, it does feel like a Clone Wars episode. You get the vibe from it when reading it. But my favorite thing about this book is Quinlan Voss and Ventress. Ventress never really got her story finished in the Clone Wars. She did help Ahsoka clear her name in the Ahsoka's arc in season 5. But Quinlan only appeared in one episode of the show when he and Obi-Wan teamed up to take out Cad Bane, who killed Zero. But this basically confirms what Voss has been doing. He's basically undercover, and he bumps into Ventress during one of her missions to chase some bounty on some planet, and this is even in the animatic. You can watch it, but Voss ends up tackling the man, and I can even hear the dialogue in the animation, and as it's later used in this book, which was quite nice. But throughout the whole book, basically Ventress is going to train Voss in the ways of the dark side, like I said, on Dathomir, and Voss does have to go through the trials of Dathomir. He ends up getting bitten by a snake. He has to fight some beast to fully channel his dark side, but it all happens after a mission when Ventress does find out Voss is a Jedi, and she can clearly just obviously tell because of Voss's reflexes. But this book is definitely very dark. A few characters die early on in the story. One of Ventress's friends after a rescue mission, and they just die somewhat off screen. But once Voss and Ventress do go to the planet where Dooku is at with General Grievous, it leads to a brawl where unfortunately Voss gets kidnapped by Dooku after getting defeated by Grievous and Dooku. But Ventress tries to go to Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan's not really buying it at first. So she decides to recruit a bunch of bounty hunters, a younger Boba Fett, Embo, the girl with the I forget her name, but the girl with the leaf power or whatever, I forget her name, and her one droid, you know what I'm talking about. I think we also forget. I think I got all the bounty hunters, but basically Ventress is going to team up with these bounty hunters to rescue Voss on Count Dooku's fortress. And we do see an animation of Dooku fighting the bounty hunters, who basically go to the planet. Even though Boba doesn't have trust in Ventress, as you know, Ventress caused Boba to get humiliated in that one episode of season 4, I'm pretty sure. But Boba ends up going along with this, and he even got his armor on. So this probably takes place after this one arc where Boba teams up with Cad Bane on Tatooine. That was also an unfinished episode. But Boba ends up creating a distraction for Count Dooku, and this, like I said, we do see an animation of this fight scene, which was quite nice, quite intense. But once Ventress does rescue Voss, it's actually revealed that Voss learned the truth behind Ventress, a secret she's been hiding. Apparently, she killed Voss's master, Master Falm. In the Legends timeline, he survived Order 66, but I guess in the new canon, he was killed by Ventress during the Clone Wars. It was kind of anticlimactic if you really think about it, but what happens next is it turns out Voss has turned to the dark side and has been tortured by Dooku, and it causes Ventress to flee and go into a depression. But she's finally able to team up with the Jedi to basically find Voss and rescue him, and she is forced to team up with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and they do find where Voss is, and they rescue him, but Ventress is getting suspicious that he's still under the dark side, and she was right, as the Jedi don't suspect anything, but they decide to test the theory when Voss goes on a mission with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and we get various moments where it's revealed that Voss was tricking the Jedi into a trap that basically could have got them and the clone troopers killed. But they decide the only way they can truly trust Voss is by sending him to kill Count Dooku again. But he decides that Voss is actually determined, because of his love for Ventress, he's deciding to basically, he's either going to quit the Jedi Order or stay with Ventress. Wait, no, I think it was like, he quits the Jedi Order and stays with Ventress, or stays with the Jedi. But Ventress is feeling doubtful about Voss. But they decide the only way they can finally take out Dooku is by tracking him down on Christosis. And basically the finale of this book is basically on Christosis, where Voss confronts Dooku, and it actually is revealed that he joined him and is actually using Dooku just so he can take out Dooku and Darth Sidious. But he ended up, because of his dark side, he was able to kill 2 Jedi who were friends of Voss. They get killed off, unfortunately, and it's actually shocking that Voss did that, because I thought he was just gonna pretend to be part of the dark side this whole time, but no, he was actually in it for a moment. But what's even more out of character of the Jedi is that they actually want Obi-Wan and Anakin to actually execute Dooku and Voss once they do capture Dooku during a fight. But once Voss does free himself, he and Dooku meet up with Ventress on the ship, but unfortunately they're shot down and they flee into the woods, and that's where they go to this tower that Dooku owns. But that also gets shot down by a group of clones. But Anakin and Obi-Wan decide to cease fire. But this is where we get the final moment. Ventress actually sacrifices herself after Dooku's revealed that he's just going to betray both of them after Palpatine doesn't approve of Count having another assassin. But Ventress sacrifices herself by getting hit by Dooku's Force Lightning, and it causes Voss to actually turn to the light for a moment, and he decides to let Dooku go, and he decides to held Ventress in his arms. And it's actually sad that Ventress dies, and the book ends with Voss getting clear of his charges. Even earlier in the book got cleared of her charges, but Voss ends up taking Ventress to Dathomir to bury her, And it's actually different from what happens in Tales of the Empire. It's actually revealed that Ventress is put into her nightgown, her dress, earlier when she went undercover to try to take out Dooku. And she actually gets put into the Night Sister Memorial. And Quinlan and Kenobi even witness the dark side magic of Dathomir happen. But in the book, they just lay her to rest in the waters. And Quinlan says he'll always love her. And the two leave. But years later, after this book came out, Ventress has been decided to be brought back to life. And some people aren't really a fan of that. Honestly, I'm fine with it since I felt Ventress never really got much justice since, the Clone Wars got canceled. So it's nice that Ventress did come back. I'm hoping she does come back in the Darth Maul show that's coming out next year. I hope that will fill in the gaps for her character. But some people aren't really a fan of characters coming back to life. But like Darth Maul, for example. But honestly, it's Star Wars. They can do resurrections or fake out deaths. That's kind of their thing. Because Dave Filoni made that a thing. But I think that's Dark Disciple. So this book was really good. I was a bit taken off by Quinlan turning to the dark side. I was a bit confused if he was truly on the dark side or if he was pretending. It's hard to tell. But some people think a YouTuber did say that Ventress's death and coming back to life doesn't make sense because she was supposedly dead for months. But really, it was just trying to explain how a lot has happened throughout this whole book, and it's basically explaining that. But honestly, I think it makes perfect sense how Ventress came back. She chose to come back to life, since the Night Sister magic works completely different than what the Jedi and Sith do. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Dark Disciple. This book really was easy for me to read at first. There were some chapters that were hard to read since I'm a very slow reader. But I was able to quickly read this book, and it was a lot of fun with a lot of good action. It makes me want these episodes to be a thing in the Clone Wars. But at least it's canon. Even if it's not, it still exists. So this book was really good. So I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. The next Star Wars book I'd love to read is Brotherhood. I've always wanted to read some of that since I've only read a little bit of it. That takes place, I think, after Attack of the Clones. So I'm excited to read that. So, yeah, what do you think of Dark Disciple and Tales of the Underworld? So, anyway, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.